Okay, I wanted to get into a couple other sort of advanced topics or advanced features of Segment and illustrate the power of what's available when it comes to audiences, computed traits, and profiles. So, one of the main advantages to leveraging Segment as a CDP is the ability to build sort of centralized audiences based off all this data that you're collecting, define the rule set of that audience, and then leverage that audience across multiple destination platforms. And again, one of the really powerful things is your ability to move quickly inside a segment, define these events very quickly, and expand and scale them to multiple destinations, and then essentially build custom logic about some of these attributes and traits that a customer would have as you start to enrich these profiles in segment. And so I want to look through a couple of examples of what this might look like and kind of illustrate the feature and capability that you would have at your disposal. So first, let's talk about audiences. We're going to go ahead and create an audience here. And the nice thing is, this is really just a rule set. It's if this, then that. And you can start to build collections of different things. And you're essentially adding things like, did they perform a certain event? Are they part of some other audience? And I want a sub audience of that larger audience. Do they have a specific computed trait? Do they have a specific SQL trait, which we won't get into, or some other custom trait that we would want to define them as? And we can then start to build some rules around this. So you can actually pick, let's just take email open. Let's say they did this one time. Let's say we want to filter down to some time window in the last 7 days. Let's say we want some other property within that thing. Let's say we wanted them from a certain CSP, and let's say, okay, they're going to give us SendGrid. So again, you can see very quickly, you're able to click, build out the rule sets. You can actually have or, call it negative interactions. You can do or condition and conditions, and then also ensure they did or did not perform some other thing. So you can start to see, you can get, again, very precise in how you're defining the audience and how you're trying to isolate specific segments that then can be, I guess, pun intended, segments on segments, but you can then consume this by other destinations and then action that audience depending on whatever, again, the use case is. The other really cool feature here is you can actually preview the audience. So this is a nice way to really sort of QA this thing. The only other call out I would say is from what I've seen so far, audiences do take some time to build. So there might be a 2 or 3 or 4 hour delay in generating the audience. In some cases, if it's a very simple rule set, Segment does have a real time audience definition built, but that's the only other thing to really consider as you're going through this. So I'm going to cancel out of this. We'll exit this flow. And the other thing I think worth looking at is computed traits. So computed traits is actually Segment's feature to enable you to build traits for a given customer based on certain things that are going on for that customer or that user. And here are a number of out of the box items. You can define things like what is the first thing that ever occurred with that customer? What is the last property event? This is very helpful for things like status changed or maybe even attribution. What is the first touch point or interaction point? What channel did that come from, or what is the last? You can look at things like most frequent. You can actually start to build event counters. So maybe you want to build an audience based on the number of times they did some sort of interaction or event. This would be really helpful if you're trying to isolate people that are maybe having problems. They're clicking on the same button several times, or they're having to go through the same flow several times. You could actually build an audience around that. You then also have things like unique lists, list counts, or even aggregations where you want to sum up maybe total purchases as an example and put those individuals into a specific audience as a result of that. I have actually not dug into predictive traits here. This is perhaps how Segment is starting to integrate AI into their platform. So that is clearly some other feature that they've recently integrated into the platform. That's the other thing I would actually call out about Segment, and what's great about the platform is they're constantly iterating and they're constantly introducing new features as a part of your subscription. And so the product is continuing to improve and evolve on what is already a really solid foundation and a really robust feature set. I think that's the only other thing I would mention here. The other piece that you can actually get into is the Profile Explorer, where you can then go actually triage and QA specific customer profiles, search them, and ensure that everything is getting basically aggregated to the profile as you would expect. You can then actually test some of these audience definitions. You can test these computed traits and make sure things are working as you would expect.